Okay, this is August 22nd, 2023. Meeting of the Development Review Board. So do we have any from the board, any agenda items for addition, removal, or adjustment? Okay, we don't have any old business. We've got two things to do tonight. First up is excuse me, permit number 23-302. A. Johnson Company LLC, 106 Andrew Drive, parcel 0901071. Requesting conditional use permit for the Bristol Unified Development Regulations, Article 8, Section 807, which is involves floodplain. So who's here for Johnson?
Could I ask a procedural question before we begin?
No, we're doing this now. All on the agenda, what's your question?
It didn't have to do with notice provisions. There weren't that. And we have a,
Well, then we'll deal, if you have some complaint about that, we'll deal with that when that section, that matter comes up, if this is Johnson, or are you complaining about the Johnson?
no.
Okay, no.
All right, I am Greg McKenney, representing the A. Johnson Company here tonight. We're here for the floodplain conditional use application.
Okay, so gotta walk us through, because frankly, this is the first one we've done.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
I wrote the form out.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I appreciate it, so. First on C10, which building are we talking about? We're talking about
Yeah,
this little one right here,
exactly.
proposed kiln?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
I just have a quick. Peggy, are you okay if I don't share the screen for maps and things to you and we only do it locally? Are you good with that? Oh, never mind. I need to do it for the recording. Never mind. I'm just gonna ignore what I just said.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, what do you want me to do? Read down through the application
Well,
or?
take us through, we've got
Yep,
a proposed building, take us through that and then just take us through your analysis of the floodplain. Regulations and how this complies or will be okay.
sure. So, yeah. We've got a proposed kiln building going in next to building number 17, which is a series of
Yeah.
existing kiln buildings.
Right, and what's the dimension of the
Dimensions, I believe, are
proposed new building?
26 by 44. And then there's a control room as well. And let's say 10 by 15, and double check there.
15.
15 by 20, sorry, yeah.
Okay,
And it's, as we know, in the floodplain,
and so it's pretty close to that's another kiln building?
yep, it's 10 feet, sorry, 5 feet from the existing kiln.
And that's building 17?
Yep,
Are there other kiln buildings besides 17?
that's a series of kiln buildings, they're
So,
all tied together.
so 6,
No,
18,
those are
9,
not,
18?
no, those are not.
20?
Just 17 is,
17 consists of 10 kilns.
Oh, okay. Did you get that, Peggy?
Yes,
Okay. And is 20 a kiln building?
20 is not a kiln.
Okay. So this will be a new kiln, 26 by 44, plus the control room?
Plus the control room, 15 by 20.
Okay. Okay. And so this is gonna be on a slab,
On a slab, correct,
and what's the elevation of the slab?
370 proposed. Basically the grade that's out there.
And how's that compare with base flood elevation?
Let's see. Let's see, 372 from the firm maps cuts through building number 17. And this is just the up gradient some, but I think we can call it 372.
So,
According to this map, 370 is
370,
beyond.
yeah, it's beyond, it's between 372 and 380. So here's 372 right here, this squiggle,
got it,
380's up here,
yeah,
and our building's right here, so if you wanna call it
so,
372 and a half.
okay, so. And 370 is the,
Elevation of the new building.
Yes, yep.
What's the elevation of 17 and 20? You don't mind me?
I don't have 20. With 17 would be the same.
so. 370,
Yeah,
so it's 2 feet lower than the base flood elevation,
20 is the first.
20 is the long wholesale lumber shed.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
okay, so we've got. So we're 2 feet below the base flood elevation, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. So tell me about, in your application, you said. Floodwater is gonna infiltrate, so. Tell me about how this building is constructed.
yeah, it's a aluminum building. I think it'll have concrete footings, foundation walls, either a steel or aluminum frame. I think steel, I'm not certain on that, but then there's
all
it's all aluminum, okay, aluminum frame and then aluminum siding.
18-inch at least.
I forgot, so, sorry, who else was, we got here? Okay, so Peggy, do you have the, can you identify yourself?
Kenneth Johnson, A. Johnson.
Okay, Ken and
Greg.
everybody read Greg, sorry. Do you solemnly swear the evidence you shall give before the zoning board of adjustments shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Come on, Ted. Let me down, man.
I thought this was a sketch review.
Well, um. So, you know, what we're. The regulations tell us to look at is you're worried about things getting torn off and floating downstream or materials. Going downstream in a flood and causing trouble, so,
And we've had 4 major flood events in my lifetime, and we've never had any issues at the kiln whatsoever. No
So-
door damage, no,
so how does so the lumber hasn't
It gets
headed
wet.
downstream?
it gets wet and we dry it out again.
How do you keep it in the building? How does it not,
And doors have just stayed in place.
so the kilns fill up with flood
Water
water?
flows by the
Yeah,
kilns and
yeah.
doesn't go against them, it flows by them, it's flowed into the kilns, and the water's gotten wet, and then when the water goes away, the water runs out of the kiln. And they turn the heat back on, and some of the lumber's muddy, and well, that's just the way it is.
So with kiln 17, you haven't had a problem in the past with lumber heading downstream? Will the building, the new proposed building be constructed in the same manner as building 17?
Just be the same, it was just the subwall's the same height, but the upper structure is all aluminum instead of steel, so it won't. Don't have to be as worried about rust when we're going over.
So there's a subwall that comes up off the foundation, off a footing.
Yeah.
And then aluminum frame attached to the subwall.
And
How- How high does the subwall come up from the surface?
I believe it's 18 inches.
I would have to look, I don't have the structural plans there, but that's common.
Subwall is basically a concrete is concrete, right?
Correct.
And it's,
Foundational.
And it's just like concrete, that is.
oh, really? Okay.
And the biggest thing we have going for us is that we have a lot, we have 80 acres. And when we get water, it just covers everything, spreads out over the whole 80 acres, so it reduces the pressure on everything. We gotta clean everywhere, but no particular building is really affected that much. We're a floodplain, we just gotta live with it.
Yeah, the entire parcel's in floodplain,
Right.
so.
Thanks, Dan.
Did the water come up, this past July?
I'm sorry.
Did the water come up this past July? Did you get
No,
flooding?
ran through the lower log yard, but did not run through the mill yard, it was. Probably had to come up another foot and it would have, but it didn't. We were extraordinarily fortunate.
During Irene, did it come up into the buildings?
I'm sorry.
During Irene.
Yes. I also have 4 feet in my personal basement.
How far into the yard did Irene? Did the water travel into the yard during Irene? How far?
Oh, yeah.
How far? The
Covers
entire
everything.
property,
When it goes into the yard, it covers everything.
the entire property.
Which is the blessing, really.
Did you have any insurance claims during Irene?
No.
Well, what are the doors like on this proposed building? Is it an overhead door that comes down?
The sliding doors. We'll share a track with the doors on the other sides. So they can move front on different, and get loaded and move back on the. They're about 3.5 inch thick, 4 inch thick, extruded aluminum frame. Door sections that they keep together. Pretty solid. This is the. Ground level. I knew it was on my frame too, but I didn't bother to look. And the end is. They pins on the sides, keep it in place.
So the side of the building that's points northeast, that would be 26 feet wide.
Correct.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Within the same line, essentially, that's building 17.
Correct,
In the same way.
yeah. And it's outside of the floodway and the river corridor.
Okay, so we're on.
You got the river corridor here.
Is the solid is the big dashes?
Yeah. And we can look at it on the other,
There you go. Okay,
drawing.
all right, so
So
that's
that's the river.
the heavy dash line, is
yeah.
the river corridor.
Yep, river corridor.
Okay. And the floodway is,
Yeah, FW line pipe,
the floodway's at 365 elevation,
it's not at a set elevation,
and
it's just a
well,
map.
so what, where it says floodway and then 36, and that's.
There must be a contour right beside it.
Got it. It actually says 3,
That's a contour line there.
yeah, no, I see it now. Okay. So we've got the river corridor, and then we've got floodway.
Yep.
And then the floodway on the west side goes outside the river corridor. Well, at least in part. Looks like. It crosses up,
Perhaps it does, yeah.
crosses the river corridor there,
Yeah.
but it's still out. The buildings are still outside, the proposed building is still outside the river corridor and the floodway.
Yes.
Okay. You're, lost track of the number in here. It looks like that we've got 1 through 12 and then 1 through,
There were two sets of
Five.
questions.
yeah. So you're number 5 on the second set of questions.
Yep.
Can you explain that? Yeah, this is where you're certifying something.
Yeah, so there's kind of two projects that have happened simultaneously here, and we're going through the Act 50 permitting process as well for both of them. One being the Van Mill parking lot expansion that was done to facilitate trucks to get in and out of the site a little easier. That's been built and
That's the dark gray. on this
Yes,
map.
yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah. And that equated to a net removal of 1,700 cubic yards of soil within the
So
floodplain.
that's a parking area?
Yes.
Okay, so,
And we expanded our stormwater absorption, right?
so 17 cubic yards came out.
Net, yes.
Yeah,
Some more came out and some came in, but that was for net.
okay. And how's that relate to the proposed building?
It was just to say that, you know, we've added additional floodplain storage if that's, you know, of concern.
So your testimony is that, the proposed development will not result in any increase in flood levels during the occurrence of the base flood.
Correct.
But where do things, we've seen our regs, we have to send a decision off to the state as well and wait, but then you're also dealing with state river corridor and flood protection as part of Act 250.
Yes.
Is it the same folks?
There's the district for division for everything at the state. There's
No, I know.
the, let's see, River Corridor as a staff member and the floodplain, this floodplain manager as well, I believe. And then there's a stream or river alteration engineer, and the three of us met down at the site to discuss these two projects back in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Their biggest concern was, couldn't really put the building in the river corridor, they didn't want us to, if you have to put it basically within what was the term, a shadow, a down gradient shadow of an existing structure.
yeah, okay.
In this case, we're outside of,
Yeah.
the river corridor.
So did the state folks, from your understanding, agree with your
Ye-
demarcation of the river corridor?
Yep, but it's based on, you know, the firm maps, which again are a ginormous scale that you sort of best fit onto, the site based on, you know, nearby roads and the river itself, so. You know, you're probably plus or minus 25 to 50 feet from what you're scaling this down from, but.
So what was the product of your meeting with the state folks?
Basically, they review it with the Act 250 application, but they didn't want it, if possible, inside this corridor, which we had shown where it was mapped. She agreed with,
Yeah.
that's on A&R Atlas, but the flood way and floodplain are not on the Vermont A&R Atlas. So those I pulled in from, like I said, the flood insurance rate maps.
Yeah, but we're outside, the building's outside of those.
Well, it's inside the 100-year floodplain. It's
Okay,
outside of the floodway.
He said, in my lifetime, we've proved it's inside the 100-year floodway 4 times.
You're that aware.
it was long. Okay, so tell me again who the state folks were that you met with, Greg?
I don't have their names, I could email you or Chris at some point, but
Well, who they
the
were,
river corridor. There's a person in that specific criteria, there's someone who looks at the flood plain, that's
Kyle.
Kyle Medash. The other woman, I believe, is Shannon.
So Kyle's the one we dealt with on the other property, right? He's
sir.
He's floodplain?
And we did not have any jurisdiction with the stream alteration rivers
Okay, yeah, that
section,
makes sense.
that's Jaren Borg.
So where do things sit with Act 250? Is there a hearing coming up or?
The application has been filed, it's a minor permit
Being treated
application,
as a
so
minor?
there won't be a hearing unless. I guess. Someone wants to challenge what's going on.
So the district coordinator.
Yep.
They're making the call on it because it's a minor, or is it going to the district commission?
It should be, I don't think it goes, well, I don't know how it works. The coordinator. Said it's a minor, yes, I'm not as familiar with the process, but I think
So is
there's not a hearing.
Is everything filed and pending, or are you just?
Yes,
waiting
yeah.
a decision?
Yeah, and we've got to provide a little bit of information,
What do you have to give them?
stuff that's not relevant to this,
Well, it's not relevant, it's got.
to the floodplain.
Doesn't have floodplain, okay.
Yeah.
So district coordinator has all the information they need.
They have these plans, yeah.
They haven't asked you for anything more with respect to floodplain?
No, not yet.
Okay. Any of you folks have any questions for Greg or Ken?
Just a sort of a side question, but when people are thinking about sawmills, they always think of noise. Will this add any significant noise to the operation?
It's a Ken.
The other thing is, yes, I know, I just wanted just said. And the other thing is, will this add to any significant number of trucks coming in and out?
The noise piece it's on the Act 250 application, I didn't realize I'd be answering those questions, I would have printed it out, but my understanding is all the infrastructure. That powers the kiln is in place in the existing kiln buildings, and they're just connecting steam lines up to the existing. Furnace or whatever heats the.
It might be slightly noisier because we're gonna have 11 lumber grind kilns instead of actually 10 lumber grind kilns and a re-dry kiln instead of 9. It can be a dramatic difference.
Okay, and the trucks? More trucks? Lots more trucks coming in and out? People seem to work,
If we can get logs that saw a lot more lumber, yes, but I would say no, we need to improve, which is why we're doing this, we've gotta grow to compete. But no, there's not gonna be dramatic difference in trucks, it's gonna be that we can get the lumber, particularly the white woods like the maples into the kiln more quickly, improve their color and make them more marketable. If we suffer now from decay, we have lumber sitting outside. We have probably 2/3 of the kiln capacity of a typical serious hardwood mill our size. So we're playing catch up. We have a lot of catch up to do.
Any other questions?
I have a question. So you partly answered my question, which was added how the building was being serviced in terms of fuel to run the kilns, and it sounds like you're running off existing.
Heat fire steam boiler.
Okay. And the chemicals being used in the kiln drying process, are you using any?
No, we use boiler chemical to treat the water to keep our boiler from scaling over, but there's no chemicals used in the kiln.
You're not doing any pressure treated lumber? or
No,
anything like
no
that?
pit tanks, no pressure treating. Thinking of floodplain, that would be a terrible business choice.
Just asking the question. And then you've got all your bathrooms somewhere else on the site? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, there's no, potable water or wastewater in the building. Not inhabited.
In the design of the metal building you have here, can you describe any large openings in the exterior that would help water pass through the structure in the case of a flood event?
Yeah, I've got a picture. I could have submitted it, but
One door into the adjacent building, or
Yeah.
all 4 sides have openings?
No.
What's the deal?
No, there's a small door in the back for a person to access, and there's 2 sectional sliding pieces in the front that open up for changing out the charge of lumber in the kiln. And that's it. Basically, we're trying our very best to make an enclosed, relatively airtight water treatment box so that we can control the conditions inside the kiln and do the best job possible dry lumber.
Understood.
Well, did you? So.
Yeah.
And we have that.
Yep.
for-
Would you say the arrangement and placement and size of the openings is similar to other buildings on site? Or would
Very
this,
similar to the picture you're looking at.
and this is on site?
Going to be our first completely outside supplier provided kiln building. We finally realized we weren't so smart that we could build everything ourselves. Just, no, not a smart thing to do.
Okay,
But it's very, very much like that. It's just it's better insulated. There's gonna be more airflow inside the kiln. And better venting capacity, better heating capacity, and so better drying time with brighter lumber.
nice. Thank
can I
you,
see it?
absolutely. Sounds good.
Essentially a large box.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I'm good.
Any questions from the gallery? Anything further you want to add, or you can?
I guess just that we're doing this for survival, as I said, we're playing catch up. we haven't invested as much in mill machinery and kiln drying machinery, et cetera, as we should have in the last 15 years. And we've finally been out visiting other mills and finding that other people have, and if we're going to continue to compete and sell lumber into that marketplace, we have to become more efficient, and this is part of that.
Where's your source material? Where's your logs? Where do they come from? Is it all over? Or is it-
100-mile radius.
This is that, okay, so into New York too, or into?
Yeah.
Okay,
People are where there's more mountains involved, because truckers don't like to drive over mountains.
okay, other questions? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the application. Now we have to send it on to the state for a comment period, so, so the time, 30-day timelines as you saw, but, so it's, I guess the state in some ways has the ultimate say, but, first comes to us, so, I move that we approve the, application under our flood hazard regulations. Conditional use, because it's a new structure.
No, second that.
Any discussion?
No, it looks like a good project to me. So,
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I see is that, you know, the water's flowing from northeast to southwest, essentially, and the additional building 17 is already wider. It's not, the water's gonna flow around the new building.
Like we're adding a parallel under the shed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really extending any interface to the movement of the water, so I think it will spread around and should be negligible impact.
We wouldn't be spending a ton of money with the idea that we're gonna get easily damaged.
Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, Peggy 4-0.
Okay.
All right. So we got the timing on this is different than our other parts of the regulation. We have to get a decision, and get it off of the state, and it's a pretty good window for them to comment whether they are on the ball and comment, or they would let it go by. I don't know.
We'll see how the deals go.
Yeah, exactly. So the decision will be sort of contingent on state's review. And so it would be, the way I'm thinking of it is to say it wouldn't take effect until after that 30-day period. And if the state comes back with some back from one, we could sort it out. I think that's how it's rated out. I think that's how it's, so it'll be a future, be final, think about future day. I think that's where we have to write it out. So, okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, next matter. This.
Get some stuff there.
This is permit 23-500 Jacob Zubo. 3436 Garfield Street, parcel number 235015. Site plan review for a club per Bristol Unified Development Regulations, Article 3, Section 390. So who's here for the applicant?
Yeah.
Jacob? Yep. Okay. So, take us through your proposal.
You wanna swear him in?
So the way that we do this, Jacob will present his proposal, the board will ask questions, and then when the board's done asking questions, we'll open it up for questions and comments from the folks here. And when we do we have a sign-in sheet?
There is one in the back. Yes. Like it.
he's,
Well, I just wanna make sure that everybody's
he's
signed,
already been queued.
that we have addresses on there.
We got it.
So for those of you who want to comment, let us know your name and where you live. And how many you have? 19, I get.
And you can, with 10 and you guys are gone.
Oh, yeah, so I double.
So you lost
counted, so-
4, so you get about
Okay, so
15.
about 15, give or take, okay. If someone new comes in, send them up here so they can sign in. Okay, Jacob. Take us through your application.
Okay,
Sorry, man.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Ted. The assignment swear the attitude shall give before the zoning board, development review board, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
I still want to call us the zoning board adjustment, too. Still on autopilot with that one. Okay, take us through. This is the proposal for a club. You're in the HDR.
If I'm in the HDR, I'm proposing a club. Our mission is to build a strong, vibrant community by providing easy accessibility to art creation and art education opportunities. The club or guild will be run by myself and a co-president and founder, Dylan.
Dylan,
Yep,
who,
Dylan Werner.
okay,
And then we'll have members subscribed. To be able to come use the club, on the basis of the club
so how's it gonna be handled? You're gonna have like membership, basically?
membership.
Okay,
We'll have membership to use the club. And then as the club studio space, we'll offer, availability for people to use. The resources to make art and different things. We'll also host some events and offer classes to the public.
and where's the, you have multiple copies of this or more than that?
You can have it.
No, it's just, cause this came in later. So, good.
Would you like that document on the screen, Kevin?
Yeah, I think so. So the club is gonna be membership open to anyone?
Membership open to anyone.
Okay. And how does will one become a member?
Sign up under our club and then pay a fee.
Okay. And what do you call the club?
Green Mountain Artisans Guild.
Okay. And it's basically first floor studio space?
Yeah, so the club is looking at first floor in our garage area,
What's the footprint?
1,200 square feet,
What's the dimensions?
30 by 40.
That's just the first floor.
First floor,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
10-foot ceiling, if that matters.
Can we highlight the structure that we're actually talking about here on that? Okay,
So I tell you.
okay,
oh, okay,
thank you.
Just for your bearings, down on the,
Here is Garfield.
Yeah.
Jacob's driveway, his existing home, structure we're discussing is here.
Okay, thank you.
Mountain Street to the right.
yes,
Okay. All right, so it's a 30 by 40 foot space. Is it currently cut up? Is there just an open floor plan?
Open floor plan, right,
How many stories? Sorry to interrupt.
and the whole building is 2 stories.
It is a 2-story structure.
Yeah.
And so what type of classes or art?
Open to offer a variety of classes, painting, drawing, 3D design, woodworking, and some metalsmithing. And then in the 3D design, analyze like 3D printing and some laser etching, laser carving, things like that.
So you're proposing to have certain equipment in there that Is there now woodworking equipment and laser, is that stuff already there?
It's not in the
You-
building currently,
You'd be bringing it?
currently in my home.
Okay. So there's some equipment that would be needed, that would go in there. Okay. Do you have a public building permit?
Yes. Public building permit?
Yeah, from Division of Fire Safety.
No,
You apply,
no, I was not aware that I needed to.
but you're gonna have people in there, it's a public building.
Gotcha,
Yeah, they see it as a change of use.
okay.
Did you say there's a change of use?
Yes,
Well,
from residents
I
to
didn't hear.
commercial building. Yes,
Well, it's also, well, this is a,
Well, club is a by right use.
yeah,
It's
but
still
it's,
used, so
it's still a public building.
Yeah, okay,
You're bringing people who aren't your family into this, to use this building, so.
okay.
So people would they rent space? Or would it,
Not for the,
how's it gonna work?
not for the club.
Okay,
The club would be member access. And they could come in. And for some things, if it's open studio hours, they might have to pay a fee to use certain aspects of the equipment and space. Otherwise, there will be like preset packages, sort of, that are built. That they can walk in and purchase to then create. Like, have you ever seen board art? Where you like strap 4 pieces of wood and then you kind of like antique paint it and distress it a little bit.
yeah. So you'd be selling supplies for the art projects?
Not supplies. Well, we would have the supplies available for them.
So if I wanna do oil painting, am I getting the canvas from you and the club and the paint and all that
That's
stuff?
the idea, yeah. Unless there was a special class, you know, and they wanted to bring their own or something.
Okay. Um,
The purpose is to try to make it easy, so people like don't have to sign up for a 6-7 week class that they might only be available for 2 of them and spend, you know, $100 or more.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. They can come in once if they want, or more than that.
do you have any contracts that you've been negotiating for with anyone for classes or, you know, sort of funnel people to you or?
No, not at this time. Trying to get the nuts and bolts set up before we dive into more of that.
Do you have an idea of how many people might be accessing, property at any given time?
I'd say at max, like 16 to 20 at a time. If there's a special event or class,
And
I missed
saying
it.
average,
I
like,
sorry, I missed it. I was
6 to 8.
reading.
oh,
I didn't hear the number.
16 to 20.
16 to 20. On average, 6 to 8. Unless it's like wildly popular,
Well,
it'd be great, but then I would like limit it to the space.
did you have hours in mind?
I'd like to be able to operate between 7 and 9. As a
Seven-
basis,
7
7 AM and 9 PM. Not continuously and not all the time. Just to be able to have a class that could go to 9 if I needed it. But not like regular hours, would probably be between like 8:30 and 5.
And what days of the week?
I was looking for Sunday through Saturday. I'm not sure exactly.
That's every day.
Yep, every day.
It's helpful to be clear.
Sorry, yeah. So we based on our schedules and
Yeah, I know, I get
there'll be
that.
probably some days that,
I'm
well,
trying,
definitely not. We won't be in there every day,
I'm
because
trying
I
to-
couldn't handle that.
trying to see note 12 here regarding parking.
Okay, on the screen.
The existing parking area will need to be adjusted. What are we talking about here? Oh, replacement septic?
Yes. This was the wastewater plan that was generated. The site plan was generated for the wastewater. So it depicts where here, where the septic is, and this is the existing parking, that's where they wanted the parking to move to.
So, so where's the replacement area?
That is the replacement area next to the parking, and the septic is north of it.
Okay,
Is there
That's the
any
existing.
place in there where you could expand the parking? Beyond 5 cars?
Beyond 5 cars, I could push a little bit more here. And I could possibly get some more up that way,
so this,
but I was hoping to have a couple spaces reserved for accessibility for people
so is
that may need it, but then encourage off-site parking,
where,
like after hours at the library or at the elementary school or near the Shaw's and Walgreens.
do you have agreements with any of those entities?
Public parking,
So that's no, you don't.
no,
So how many spaces? How many parking spaces, Chris, do we have in this design?
I
Do you have a
have
sense?
5.
It's currently 5.
You agree? Based on our measurements,
Yeah, I was actually on site,
but your residence is up front, so where's your parking? Or is it the same place?
Same place. For that section,
And your building is a 2-unit dwelling?
yeah. I am one of the residents there, and I would be with one running the club, and the other member or co-president is also the other resident in the duplex.
Do you engage a professional engineer or architect to take a look at the structure and advise you as to the construction requirements to get into that garage
To get into it,
with that occupancy?
not related to the occupancy. I have had construction advice from a contractor on safety and what I need for like a public building. I'll need double
Has there been plumbing,
drywall in between.
has
No
there been plumbing
yeah.
calcs done? Do you know what your septic load is gonna be?
I don't, yeah.
So is there proposed
Is this,
facilities, bathroom and such in this?
Yeah,
This is a 2-story building?
2-story,
What's on the second floor?
nothing right now. I would like to put 1 bathroom on the second floor. 1 bathroom on the first floor.
And that would use the existing septic field for your house.
Yeah, well, no, it's,
It would have a separate system.
yeah, that system was designed and put in for this building.
this was designed then for a commercial occupancy, the
No.
septic? For a residential occupancy?
And
Well,
also,
he doesn't have a public building permit from fire safety for the electrical and all that stuff that would go along with the
Yeah.
proposed
So-
use, you know, it's not our bailiwick, but the state's fire safety use.
so how long has that been in place?
What?
The septic system, for the,
For the new,
building, the proposed building.
that's been in place since. I think it was October, November.
Okay,
When
so
was that one?
this past year.
Yeah,
So what's the status of the wastewater permit? You've got an application pending or has it been issued?
it's been issued.
Okay, what is it,
It was approved.
for what for?
For what flow?
Yeah.
I would have to look at it.
Do you have it?
I can get it for you really quick.
Well, we'll want to put it in, because we'll be approved for all sorts of things, but I want to know if it's consistent with the proposal. Yep.
What I'm hearing is he doesn't have a design for the amount of occupants he's gonna have in that building.
I know. But in this case, we're dealing with site plan
Hmm.
now.
So that like limits how many people I can have?
Potentially.
Okay.
Well, it's, you know, what, our site plan regulations. Which are. Start on 39. So 394. Is. What our criteria are. We're not the overlay district. Three 43. No, that just sets the 45 day clock after conclusion of the hearing. So it doesn't provide anything substantive. Okay. So Chris, what does he need for parking? Let's look at parking. 71, right? 92? I always have 45.
It's page 67,
Okay.
711. And this is the,
Yeah, but but you got. So he needs 2 for the duplex.
correct. And after that, I have no calculations of that.
Well, it's gonna fit in one of those, it's gonna be a civic use, right? That's all. Entertainment. Onward uses, I mean, section 711 doesn't help us a lot.
No.
But there's. Okay, so how many vehicles do you have in your household? You yourself? And what about your tenant? And your tenant is connected with the project? Zachary, was it?
Dylan
Dylan, I'm sorry, jeez. Dylan, what's his last name?
Burner,
Spell it, please.
VERNER.
Okay.
So one way to look at it, might. If this was a home business, you one for every employee.
Yeah, but it's not,
I know, that's the hard part.
well, it doesn't really fit that. I mean, the home business is usually like a hair salon. or
Right.
something Like that with one person coming in. Traditional.
If this is a studio, we could possibly calc it as one person per studio space, which is defined by the user. We calc it as a classroom building, it's one for 40 square foot, which is 60 people in the building. Which is roughly two fixtures.
But they've got 2 available parking spots.
Well, yeah, I'm still hung up on the plumbing part.
Well. Let fire safety do its job on the building code. Alright, so a club, as defined. Is a building, site, or complex operated for social, educational, or recreational purposes to which membership or invitation is required for participation or use of the premises. So that's a by right use in this zone, subject to site plan review. Go ahead and ask questions, guys, while I'm flipping around here.
Well, it looks like you have a problem with the parking. Yes. So if the folks that are already living on the property have 3 cars and you have 5 spaces. That's doesn't seem to be adequate.
And for on-street parking, I mean, you could probably put 3 cars in front of where the house is.
We don't do on-street parking.
Actually, you can't there. It's a ditch.
Oh, well,
Also, excuse me, but on-site parking is against statute in Bristol.
is it really?
Yes, it is. I talked to a policeman today,
People
You
are
mean-
parking all over the
and they
place.
try to give people a break. They don't always give people a break. But
Let's,
it is, by his words, against the statute in Bristol. So on-street parking would be inappropriate.
let's stay on task or on subject here and what the police may or may not think that we're focusing on what the zoning ordinance says or doesn't say. So. Are there exterior lights? On the building, the
No.
accessory building,
Not currently, but I would,
signs,
I have proposed one sign in the
where,
front yard. At the end of the driveway. Propose one light at the door. Of the building with a downward facing shade.
the door faces Garfield Street,
Propose one lamp with a downward facing shade. That would be kind of at the corner of the driveway where that kind of L is.
I'm not sure, so just in here, that person,
Yeah. Right there.
so what's gonna go there?
A lamp.
Now,
It's dark
in
to
addition,
help
right,
people.
but in addition to one on the front of the building itself.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do one get from the driveway into the driveway to the building?
Have an extended walkway, 2 walkways. There's one that's very level. In the kind of close to the center.
Yeah.
That's made of stone. For accessibility, and then there's a kind of larger, almost extended driveway that goes straight to the bay doors.
Yeah.
Of the shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Keep going, folks. I gotta look at something.
So there may be concerns about noise. And art and woodworking, metal smithing, make some noise. So things that would be more noisy, we would do during those. Like 8:30 to 5 hours to keep it kind of in the working hours, not early in the morning, not late at night. And also, the building has studs that are offset from the exterior sheathing, which helps to reduce conductivity of sound through to the outside. And then using Owens Corning Fire Guard and Sound Guard Plus insulation, which is supposed to help reduce noise.
How thick are the exterior walls on the building?
6 inches, well, 8. 8 total from the inside wall to the
Yeah.
exterior sheet.
Okay.
How are you gonna deal with the exhaust coming off your metal smithing?
For the exhaust, I was going to work on an HVAC system that would be filtered through carbon filters.
Are you gonna be doing an environmental study on how the exhaust is impacting your neighbors?
I didn't think about that, but I could.
So what exhaust are we talking here, like for, if you're doing welding, if they're torches or what? What were you,
For exhaust for metalsmithing is propane,
yeah,
burning propane. So I'm not sure exactly what it's,
well, that's,
the bladesmith or metalsmithing is not my expertise either.
what were you thinking of?
Well, it could be, there should be a fume hood to collect all the fumes from the metal. Working, if it's jewelry, it could be rather small, but if you're doing something of scale, it could be
Hmm.
quite
So you were
significant.
thinking of something other than just propane, right,
Well,
like welders torches and things like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it depends on how he's treating the metals. It could be acids,
Well,
it
that's true,
could be all sorts of things.
yeah, yeah.
And then he's gonna have a dust collection system for the woodworking. Which is gonna be running and exhausting the outside with the motor. And you can't insulate the sound on that. He's within 15 feet of the 10 feet, 12 feet of the property boundary on the
On the
east.
east. And
I mean, it can be done, but it's a very invasive construction.
To do inside dust collection. I was planning to do inside dust collection and hoods for the metalsmithing.
The honest truth is most people solve these problems by situating their pseudo-industrial work on bigger sites. To help mitigate the noise.
so,
That'd be nice if I had one.
Alright. so you've got some woodworking equipment that you would be putting in there. Tell me what types of equipment. Is there a lathe,
No lathe,
No lathe.
bandsaw,
handsaw,
yep, and then,
planer, joiner, planer,
no, mostly hand tools,
circular saw,
circular
or
saw,
table saw?
no table saw. Well, maybe if it's, so might as well put that on there. Most of woodworking would be pretty basic stuff. One of the things I'd like to promote is building skateboards, which requires a little bit of use of the bandsaw. And then some sanding. And pressing the wood and gluing it. And then we incorporate some other classes based on the concepts of that.
Okay. Any other questions, Josh? Brenda, Ted?
Now, what you and your partner each have your own specialties? What are the specialties that you are planning to work on yourselves?
Like what am I gonna work on?
She just said
And
what she's special.
and, yeah,
Okay,
just generally,
I
but,
wouldn't call myself a master, but.
no, I'm just,
I work in
What's your
pottery.
medium? Put it that way.
Pottery and wood is mostly my medium.
okay, and so you would necessarily have a setup for those two.
Yeah, I'd like to have some wheels in there to offer. And
So you have to fire the,
a kiln, yeah, which would also need to be exhausted.
And your partner in this enterprise?
I'm right over here.
Oh, so,
Happy to meet you.
so I just wondered, so what would your,
So I went to school for metalsmithing and jewelry, but I, for many years, did oil painting and acrylic painting, photography professionally, and I'd love to impart some skills with life drawing because
With what?
getting into college.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, life drawing, painting, illustration, cartooning, all of these things are very strong with. I love teaching children and adults as well. And would love to open and enrich this community as much as we can. We've got a great ELP program. And we love what does downtown. And
ELP?
yeah, extended learning programs.
The after school stuff.
So in offering some additional after-school opportunities, which are mostly pedestrian, they'll be walking down. And we would hopefully encourage anyone in our town to also walk to the studio and cut down on their carbon emissions. But we would love to do these classes to give you an option on, a Wednesday afternoon to go.
So I was just wondering, because if you're, what the two of you are particularly interested in is what you are definitely wanting to set up inside that. Woodworking,
Also with-
Yeah, very
metalworking,
much.
And the 3D design with the 3D printing and the laser, it's a lot of computer graphic work and.
Yeah. But of some of these things, like the computer work, computer graphics, 3D printing, that sort of stuff, or oil painting, you're not worried so much about the noise around the surroundings and the not so worried about the other things you have to worry about, like exhaust or absorbing fumes or whatever.
Dylan, can you expound a little bit for me on what the metalworking entails?
Sure.
It's a pretty broad term, but.
It is,
And I-
and the style of metalworking that I'm currently doing, blacksmithing and bladesmithing.
What was the second one?
Bladesmithing,
Late?
and crafting knives, kitchen knives, hunting knives, and everyday use objects.
And in this building, you think you can set up a forge?
I do, we're looking forward to putting in proper blockages for any heat, fire, or anything that might cause issue there, and I wholly believe in good ventilation. Having been in many studios is probably the best thing for our health.
Yeah.
I would say that the loud noise portion, in the 14 to 27 hours that I spend on a knife, it's 2.5 hours of banging on that.
So, I don't know if we cut you off, with the forge question. Did you finish where you wanted to tell us about the metalworking that you would be doing?
That's primarily the metalworking that I would be doing, and I would love to share with some students in potentially a forum style, but maybe not a hands-on style, because I'm not sure if that would be permitted or
Or
not.
what style?
Like if I was going to teach you hands-on, maybe.
No, what was the first term beforehand? Form?
Like a forum, if you
Oh,
were to all
forum.
sit here and see me forge a knife,
Yeah, got you.
and I can share and impart my knowledge, and then from there you can go and do as you.
So what would the types of things you would be working on from the sort of the blacksmith aspect of it? Is it like
Blacksmith
door
as-
handles and hinges and things like
Yep.
that?
Scroll work, fleur-de-lis, all the embellishments that are used on
Okay.
common carpentry and eccentric carpentry.
So, okay, any other questions, Ted or Brenda or Josh? You have anything you want to add before we open it up?
I think that pretty much covered it.
Okay. All right, who would like to, well, raise your hand and we'll work left to right. Okay, you ma'am, tell us who you are.
My name is Porter Knight. I live at 27 Garfield Street.
What's your place, what number? Remind me.
34.
Okay,
Diagonally across the street.
Yeah.
That map.
27?
27, yes.
Did you get that, Peggy?
Yes,
Okay, we need to make sure that Peggy gets all these names and numbers. It's really helpful.
Great. I'd be happy to defer to more immediately proximate neighbors, or if you prefer to just do it in order, I'm happy to.
No,
go
let's
ahead and-
just, say your piece and,
Great.
and now, if someone's already made a point, we have a lot of people who want to speak, and it's just bear in mind that you'll feel the need to actually say the same thing, if you have something new, fine, or if you wanna, say whatever you
Yeah.
want, that's fine too. I
Um,
just wanna get through everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you, board, for letting us speak. So I have a letter which I will submit.
Okay.
So I'll just read that and then
Sure.
we'll go on. I
A
have,
letter from you.
yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
To the Development Review Board. I am writing as a resident at 27 Garfield Street, a neighbor in view of the giant metal warehouse building in the back of Jacob's house at 34 Garfield Street. It was my understanding that the owner received a permit last year to build a 30 by 40-foot garage with ADU. I'm baffled by how he received such a permit, given that our unified regulations clearly state an ADU can't have a footprint greater than 1,000 square feet. A property can't have an ADU if the primary structure is a duplex. Mistakes were made in granting this permit, as the zoning administrator has admitted, but to understand how great the mistakes are, you have to see it. I was horrified when the structure went up. Huge red and metal, it's radically out of place in this neighborhood. It dwarfs the house and looms over all the adjacent neighbors. It's visible from Garfield Street, Mountain Street, and even Spring Street. This was a travesty of zoning, which is supposed to protect neighbors and the community as a whole. I'm profoundly disappointed in our town leaders who allowed this to happen, but there it is, permitted as a garage with ADU. Let's not make more mistakes. If the owner uses the non-conforming building for storage of his personal vehicles and rents the upstairs apartment, so be it. It should never have been built, and I wish the town would take it down. But failing that, it is utterly wrong to consider any use other than the one for which it was permitted, garage with ADU. If the town of Bristol bends more rules and makes more exceptions for this non-conforming property, you further undermine our zoning regulations and the community's trust. Where will it end? What happens when this owner sells if you've allowed non-conforming uses to a non-conforming structure? I have many, many questions about the vague and ever-changing uses proposed by the owner, but the bottom line is this. We neighbors are dealing with an inappropriate building staring us in the face daily. Don't add insult to injury by allowing any activity outside of personal garage with ADU. Sincerely, Order 9th.
So do we have you already submitted a copy to Chris? Or-
I have not.
Okay, so you wanna give us one, do you have one for us, so we can put it in the record?
I'm happy to hand it over.
Yeah, could I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Is this garage that you mentioned, the building that they're talking about doing
Yes.
this activity in?
Yes.
It is.
Okay.
Okay, who would like to go next? You, sir. Tell us your name.
David Fernie, I live across the street at 39 Garfield.
So you're directly across.
A slight skew, but my yard is directly.
Oh, Bernie, I see you. Yep. Got it. Go ahead.
And I've got a long list of questions which I will submit. I do have a concern, which I'm gonna skip over for now, Mr. Chairman, but
Okay,
about actual notification. Do you
Okay.
want me to mention that now?
sure, you can, I mean, you may.
I've gotten no notification through any of this process, the original building, septic, nothing as required, except 6 days ago, in my memory, I was handed the town of Bristol public hearing notice by the tenant of the building. And
So that'd be Dylan.
of the proposed project.
Yeah.
And there really is been no time to assemble. We had I'll call an emergency meeting last night of most of the neighbors, where we tried to kind of come to a
Who's
consensus.
getting it posted?
But I believe the requirements, I think there's some question as whether it's a 7-day notice under this circumstance or 14 due to the fact it's a non-conforming building. That aside, I didn't get it in time.
Well, it's site plan review is what we're.
Well, even that's 7 days, and I didn't get it, and there are also.
When, let's see, tonight's what?
I didn't get it all.
23rd?
Tuesday to Tuesday.
You're not in the
7 days,
property,
correct.
right?
Right.
Okay,
Tuesday
so
to Tuesday,
when did you get it?
6 days ago.
What day?
7 days ago, David.
7 days ago,
I
but you gave me a phone call before I even had gotten it.
Okay,
I delivered.
and did you,
No, you gave
did you
Fred a
get
phone
as
call.
required a sign off by every neighbor?
That I didn't know that was.
Well, just tell me when you got your notice.
I believe it was 6 days ago.
Okay.
Do I have a calendar in front of me? No, but.
Well, okay.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
So my questions all revolve around that taking it at presentations as based is about impact. What is under the site plan review? What are there are some existing impacts that the neighbors have complained about, but there certainly are a lot of impacts in terms of the ambiguity and the proposal as I understand it. I would like one clarification. And Chris, you and I spoke about this. What is the status of the permit for the ADU? Is that allowable now, or is that not allowed?
It's not allowed. And it states in our zoning that after 2 years, if a permit is not completed, it is no longer a valid permit. Thus, the ADU was permitted over 2 years ago, thus it is no longer permitted.
Okay.
So what he has is, that we have a 1,200 square foot accessory building that is permitted on the premises.
Okay, all right, so just want to make sure Peggy has that for the. So explain that, Chris, there was an ADU, ADU is accessory dwelling unit, Peggy.
Thanks.
So you can just spell that out first and then call it ADU after that. So.
Got it.
Can you give us the ADU issuance date, Chris? Can you look at that or?
No, I can
But
get
it's been more than two.
it's exceeded 2 years from the original permit.
Okay,
So I don't understand what that means, I'm sorry.
The permit was issued over 2 years ago. And if you do not complete a permit if you do not start a permit within 2 years, the permit is no longer valid and would need to be reapplied for and reissued. At this point in time, the structure permit is in place. The structure started within the 2 years. So that is a valid permit. The actual accessory dwelling unit aspect of that permit is no longer valid.
So what is the permit for?
A 1,200 square foot accessory building, accessory
structure,
building.
no, forget about dwelling.
But it's 2,400 square.
2,400.
We measure footprint.
Footprints, not-
The footprint's 2,400. It's called.
Yes, it's 1,200 square foot
Does that
footprint.
make sense to you? That,
So I think so. So I think I'm hearing you say that now it's not an accessory dwelling unit at all. Now it's just,
that permit has expired
and so,
through non.
but it's
Implementation.
still allowed to be a garage.
It's still a building, yeah, there's a building. Accessory building, unit, think of it as use, a kind of use that's defined. That's different from supplemental to a building permit for, if you put, one of the other things that was gonna be going on tonight was a woodshed. You need a building permit for a woodshed. You need a building permit for an accessory structure. So the accessory dwelling unit aspect is moved at this point. So you're left with a
A big
building
empty
permit,
building.
a building permit for a structure, yeah, well, accessory structure, garage, that has, makes sense? Are you done, or you?
No, I'm
Okay.
just, I've got a long list. I believe some of the issues on plumbing have been asked and I believe deferred to state permits. In
Yeah,
terms of, is that correct?
yeah, this type of use. Here's the public building definition, which is really easy to trick. And so, if you have a public building, you have to get a public building permit from the state fire marshal's office, and, you know, they handle the way safety code, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff in it. The level of code protection varies by the proposed use, so it comes out of Rutland, and, it will be necessary in order to implement the use.
Right, it's been designated a club, has the board, do you make a decision about what is I mean, is this a business, is this a club? And part of that is, how do you determine, I think you were struggling with parking and.
I read the definition of what club is, and I'm happy to read it again. Our bylaws define club. And it's a building site or complex operated for a social, educational, or recreational purpose to which membership or invitation is required for participation or use of the premises. That's what.
Okay, but
bylaws
then what criteria does this board follow You determine whether there's enough parking, enough toilets, enough, on all the impact things I wanna ask about.
Yeah,
It's hard to,
well, we wouldn't be dealing with toilets, that's not site plan.
but parking you would,
Sure,
noise you would,
No.
no,
it's not part of site plan. So site plan is, site plan is really, think of it as flow around the site, as you use it. So under 394 it says landscaping, screening, exterior signs, exterior lighting, signs, hours of operation, design criteria for the exterior of the proposed building. And the protecting the utilization of renewable energy resources. So those are the criteria we're supposed to think about for purposes of site plan review.
so in my barn across the street, I can declare a club. And do essentially anything I want. In terms of noise. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, we don't look at site plan, in site plan review, I look at
Item number 10 on the list,
item number 10 on what list?
that's something Jake handed out.
Noise should be regulated in accordance with section 751.
Yeah, right, the noise, let's look at it this way, what does it say, 51? Noise is always applicable. If you're violating the noise requirements, which aren't particularly helpful in some instances in our bylaw, but that applies without regard to a pending application. So if you started to do things that were really noisy and violated the ordinances, that would be something that Chris would deal with if he received a complaint. All I'm saying is the evaluation of noise for the proposed use is not part of site plan. You still have any person in town has to violate the noise.
I believe you'll find some neighbors have made regular complaints about noise with the metal snipping. That's gone already, and I don't believe there's been much.
Could be, but we're,
Okay.
we're dealing with site plan tonight.
Point clarity.
What? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Okay. It's the
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I just wanted to.
It's correct.
What, in terms of, traffic, what about, pedestrian traffic and safety, the driveway, and I don't know whether anybody on the committee has looked, is extremely narrow. I think one neighbor feels that it even intrudes on their property. But how,
Let me clarify, David, the driveway that's running up to that driveway right there.
We always have to abide by it. Yeah.
So is this the driveway, ma'am?
Yes, I'm Carolyn Dundon. I live at 39 Passport Street. I'm the adjacent property right there. The driveway that's running up is 12 feet wide from the house, Jake's house, to the foot of the drop off from my property. So there's a 12-foot section of driveway. That is it. And some of the driveway actually goes onto my property. It veers up onto the side of the hill. There is no room for a walkway there, absolutely no room to put a public walkway for children to walk from the sidewalk up to the back of the house. There's barely room for a driveway. It's an old house, you know, they had small driveways, there's just not much space there.
Did Peggy, did you get the name and address of the person who's just commenting, Peggy?
No, why don't you repeat that for me?
My name is Carolyn Dundon, Dundon, 38 Garfield Street.
Thank you.
Could you hear her comment, Peggy?
I did.
Okay. Keep going if you have more.
I I question my things in terms of existing lighting problems, future lighting problems. I don't really.
Lighting is part of it,
Know what your impact criteria are, because to me, this is all about impact. And it comes down to the definition of high density residential, which if you read it, talks very much in keeping with the neighborhood in scale, in function. And a 1,200 foot, which really is a 2,400 foot building. Whether you look at footprint or not, and I've done development all over the country, I've never seen a property defined when permitted by the footprint. It's the total square footage of the building. Maybe Bristol is the one and only place that does it that way. But my whole point is the building is out of scale and the operations that are going on really have nothing to do with a residential neighborhood, especially if we're talking up to 60 people, which doesn't appear to be fully regulated as to who's gonna ebb and flow and come and go. It just doesn't seem to be in keeping with the neighborhood.
Or where 60 came from,
I believe.
estimating max of 20,
Yeah.
16 to 20.
That's assuming it's being used as a classroom building. That's one occupancy time.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of structures in town still that are
So
fairly large
16 to 20. you're right.
or that large.
I understand your point, David. Do you have more?
No, I'll turn in my whole list of questions to the board.
Okay. So, go ahead. I'm sorry. I saw- Go ahead.
John Pickens or Slim Pickens, 76 Mountain Street.
76?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a neighbor.
So is that north or, is that north or south of Dartmouth?
North.
That's north.
Okay. Okay, keep going.
Okay, to me, there's two major issues with this, and one is, I don't see how this can actually be called a club. I see it's very convenient for the applicant because it's a permitted use and only with the site plan, but really, when he's talked to me and when I've read what he's said, he's saying there's retail customers. He's saying there's gonna be services like 3D printing and laser printing and more. So for a club, I believe in the regs there, it says that it must be by membership or invitation, and nothing I've heard him say seems like it's limited to membership or invitation.
I think he did say that.
He says he's going to have memberships, but he's also said that retail people can come up and buy some kits, etc. There's absolutely.
That's a good question. Let's get some clarification. I didn't hear it that way, but maybe I missed it.
I said it would be by membership, if someone did come up, if they were visiting Bristol and they wanted to become a member and join our mailer or whatever, then I think that would be acceptable in my eyes, if they wanted to join up. But
So you're offering single day membership, probably.
no, it'd be like yearly.
How much is your yearly membership going to be?
I'm thinking like $5 to $25. Because then the supply cost is more, and I don't want to limit
So you
someone,
are charging for supplies, although you were.
my supply cost is more. So if someone wants to use a certain supply, when they purchase like the art package
Yeah.
for the specific thing they do, whether they want to do like a
Well, I did get
wheel
that.
throne or a canvas paint or something like that, it's gonna be different. So I don't wanna charge them all, $100
So you are, but you're charging, it makes sense. I didn't
for the
understand.
membership, yeah.
You're charging for a membership and you're charging if I want to make a painting, you're gonna say your paint costs this much, your canvas costs this much.
Yeah.
And if you can come here for the whole year and pay.
That's what I was understanding previously when I tried to ask about this, is that your proposal would be that you would have basic, for lack of a better term, supply kit for whatever art medium there is, and that you would sell that to someone who's a member. If they wanted to do some pot throwing, you would have the glazes and all that stuff. as
That's
part of
as
the
an
kit.
aspect of it, but mostly it's like the classes, that was kind of like a fill-in thing. Or when there's open studio time in classes. Yeah,
So to continue
Yeah,
that,
keep
this
going.
topic, So but you previously just said that perhaps somebody from out of town would come by and you're going to sell the full price membership to that person there for maybe one day, or maybe he's just coming to buy a gift. This is-
I wouldn't be selling retail products out of there like that, like a gift or something.
Oh, I think. Well, okay, it sounds like you might, but, okay.
I understand the points.
Okay, so this doesn't really sound like a club to me, and another term he's used, at least, well, to me, at least twice, one where I heard it and once he wrote it in front of my forum, is a makerspace. Makerspace. Like, this is the thing, I guess, right? And you get it, that's kind of what he is.
You rent studio space.
Yeah,
or
you come in and you're sitting and paint, or.
I like being a blacksmith, so, and I don't have it at my house, so I can come and rent, sort of,
Yeah.
like. Get access to your forge or your pottery kit. Right?
Yeah, that specifically, the forge would be, you know, kind of off limits, you know.
Yeah,
to
but that's the idea.
General.
That's right, it's like a makerspace?
Yeah,
Okay, so the only thing I can say to that is not even a definition in our regs, and therefore I don't think it could possibly be.
well, there's a makerspace in Burlington that is a club.
Burlington's fine,
In
in our
the industrial
regulation,
area.
there is no definition for
But
that.
it's still a club.
Let's not have a debate. Just make
And
your
isn't
point.
that, pretty important? The only other thing I've heard him call is a guild, that's certainly not in our
No,
regulations.
It's another name for a club.
I just, it's fine, and
Yeah.
your idea is fine and all this, but I don't see it being possibly passable by this board when he's calling it a makerspace. And the club seems like, that's a stretch. Okay, but the makerspace sounds right on target. And it's not in there. So that's one. The second thing is clearly, if he's having 16 to 20 people maybe come in for some class, his parking, his safety on his driveway, there is no walkway from the street for the kids coming there from school. It is really dangerous there. I've seen trucks parked out, and David Fernie can tell you that the larger trucks have to go on his property, or at least on the right of way across from his property, just to make the corner. It's very narrow, and if kids, I mean, that's scary.
The dump truck every Friday reverses down Garfield Street at 35 miles an hour.
The garbage truck.
Yeah.
35 miles an hour.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
garbage truck, yeah, every single Friday.
Not to mention the buses.
So how do you see 16 or 20 children walking down?
I've never seen that, but I would not be okay with that either.
let's, a lot of people want to talk about.
So as far as I'm concerned, those are two pretty clear things, since a makerspace is not defined at all. We should define that somehow and let them have a makerspace perhaps.
Yeah.
And the parking, I think you must have.
Well,
It's just. I mean, can you tell me how much square footage of parking you have there?
well, Chris says 5 spaces and our regs define what the size of a parking space is.
And is it people,
9 by 18?
and all people can back out and move around and et cetera, like are in the regs. Then, and, you know, it doesn't look, I saw it today, it just didn't look that big to me. So are you saying it's?
So, let me,
nine?
I just told you wrong. Our regs say define parking space as 9 feet wide by 22 feet long.
But you also need the aisle or the laneway to back into to get out.
Like, you can't stack and block.
You can never block, you know, et cetera. And I would, before I pass this one, I think a very close look, I don't know exactly got there, how it's gonna work.
I measured it.
Being cars show up to like sit and leave with a little bug. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just, it's impossible. Anyway, that's my two big ones.
Okay.
It is a
Thank you.
busy street with school kids, actively with kids walking to school. With the school buses, obviously that's only twice a day, but they, you know, literally roared.
My kids are out there frequently too, you know, I'm not, I wanna be safe and, you know, that's why
Well, your
I'm
kids,
hoping to have this, you know,
So.
to make sure that we're doing
One
things safe.
fire truck.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Who's next? Who would like to be next? You wanna?
I would.
Oh,
I have a letter I'd like to read.
remind.
My name is Carolyn Dundon,
Carolyn Dunn.
38 Garfield Street. I'm gonna skip over parts that have already, right?
Yep.
So Porter mentioned the history of this building. As a property owner adjacent to this structure, I've resigned myself to the current impact this building has had on my quality of life in terms of aesthetics, traffic, noise, privacy, and excessive nighttime lighting, which is excessive. I I believe all the adjacent surrounding neighbors would agree that this structure has negatively impacted how we feel about our properties to the extent that some of us have considered selling our homes. I grew up in a small village in Vermont, much like this one. I've lived in Bristol most of my life. I love this town. We are lucky to live here and to have regulations that protect us from unconsidered development. As a group, we feel let down by the way the town is built to comply with the current regulations in the existing structure. We were complacent. Now, as neighbors, we're being asked to tolerate more impact, including increased traffic, parking, noise, lighting, lack of privacy, and safety concerns. I shuddered when you mentioned ventilation a minute ago because my garden is 10 feet from the east side of that building. There's a hedge that I put there that separates my property from Jake's property. I put it there a long time ago. My garden's right on the other side. So if there's a ventilation hood blowing stuff out there, it's right into my garden.
It would be planned on the other side.
I just heard
For
east side.
future.
I'm the east side. That's what I just heard. It would be on the east.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
a blow up
design,
on there.
but-
But wherever it goes, west side, it would be our other neighbors. North side, it would be our other neighbors. There's no place, nobody wants to hear a ventilation hood. I know what it sounds like. No one wants to hear that all day long. Where did my quiet back lawn go? And the worst thing about this whole thing is I'm in this uncomfortable position of challenging this proposal from a neighbor who I really like. I've always had a good relationship with Jake. Dylan is a wonderful person, and I feel really put on the spot that I have to come here and challenge this proposal that is clearly not warranted in this backyard. I have so many questions about the proposed club. I agree with Slim 100%. This is not a club, a makerspace. Sure, there's one in Burlington. It's in the industrial section of town, in the art section down on Pine Street. I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of what these guys want to do. It sounds fabulous, but it is not suited in our backyards. It just doesn't belong there. We talked about the permitting. We're gonna let that go, so we've already talked about it. If this goes forward, I think the parking is a huge issue. Jake has not mentioned that he has a boat, or Dylan has a boat that takes up one space. There's also another, what we should call it, trailer park. Yeah, so we have two spaces, one's taken up by a camper, one's taken up by a boat. I mentioned the driveway is 12 feet wide. There's just absolutely no room right now. And I don't know where that pedestrian walkway will be, where will it be? To get the kids from the sidewalk to the back. Like, where's that gonna be? You are already up on my property, your driveway, which I don't care about. It doesn't bother me. But when we are talking about traffic all day long going up that driveway right by my dining room and my porch, it's just not what I want to hear. It's just.
That's why I wanted to encourage off-street parking
Well,
as much as
that's
possible.
fabulous. But we don't want them in the ditch in front of our house. Who's gonna be out there regulating it? Nobody. No one is gonna regulate that. You know, and kids walking from, I mean, it just does not sound right.
Back and right into you.
It's okay.
I got some work to do. That's why I wanted to hear all your opinions.
You know, the seats, as far as I can tell, if you look at section 711, for a civic space, it's supposed to have 4 seats per, what is this?
One space for 4 seats.
Yeah, one space for 4 seats. So if we have 16 people in that space, what is that? We need 4 extra parking spaces, right? And even that just doesn't really work because people are not gonna be driving in together. So I just don't understand it. I don't understand where all this parking is gonna come from. The ditch in front of the house certainly isn't an option. And as Slim said, it's not even legal. And lastly, I'm so concerned about the noise. It's been really loud already. And you know, Dylan does blacksmithing right out my kitchen, outside my kitchen door. And you know what? I don't care. I like it that Dylan's doing that. That's part of being in a neighborhood. And one person doing blacksmithing a couple hours a day, no big deal. It's cool. I like it. He's talented. I like seeing what he's doing. But do I want that going on all day long in the building in my backyard? I really don't. Do I want to hear saws all day long? I really don't. You know, and you know, we've talked about the building being insulated. Are the doors going to be open in the summer? Is it insulated now? Because I can tell you what, I can hear everything that goes on in that building right now.
It's not fully insulated.
Okay, so it's not insulated. Are we gonna, is there gonna be air conditioning in the summer with the doors and windows, shut, open? What's that gonna look like? It's really, I don't know. Anyway, those are some of my concerns, and I'm just gonna move on now. But, I would really like this application to be rejected. We're the community, we're right here, and we don't support this endeavor.
And I just wanna applaud Carolyn because she articulated very well. I feel terrible as a neighbor, sitting here challenging it. And as an
Yeah.
aside, I was the executive director of the Milan State Craft Center system for 4 years, Broad Hollow, across the strait. I am totally supportive of this sort of action. I think it's a great idea, but not there, not there.
Okay, anyway, here's my letter to.
Thank you.
You wanna go, Pat?
That's fine.
Hey, Larry?
So, my name is Bob Spofford, and I'm at 28 Garfield Street, so
28,
just west, I'm the western of our.
Did you get that, Peggy?
No,
Bob Spofford at 28 Garfield.
thank you.
I don't see you,
He's right next door.
we're right next door.
Oh, on that side, sorry, got it now. Yep,
Yeah, Carolyn's on one side.
yep, I see it, yep.
So yeah, we're next door to the proposed club. Jake is my neighbor. And, I'm pretty conflict averse. I like Jake, I like Dylan, and so it's a really difficult situation to be in. I know we're not supposed to necessarily talk about the building. But it is number 5 and 6, and I do have some strong feelings about it, and
It isn't, I missed it, number 506.
items 5 and 6 deal with building. And since there's not gonna be.
That's a letter that
That Jake.
Jake and Dylan prepared.
Okay.
That is one of the first sections of,
I thought those were
Those
points of the.
they are
review.
from this,
Right.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm not really excited at all about the building, and that when I wake up in the morning and open my eyes and roll over, I look out a big window and boom, it's right there.
I have a
But
picture.
that aside, I applaud the idea that they're doing, especially if it's giving kids an opportunity to explore. My son started an arts collaborative in Chicago, so I've seen firsthand how art can make people shine. The difference is, and his has been going on for a long time now. They bought a large commercial building in a more industrial part of town. And so the impact, there's minimal impact on the neighborhood. My biggest concern, and it's, been talked about a whole lot, is parking. And I'd like, if you live within 3 or 4 blocks, walking space to this space right here, raise your hand if you drove here tonight.
Oh, I did.
I can't see that people are gonna park at the green and walk up to the house, so that,
They're not gonna want to, no,
right.
but if I
so-
made it part of the requirement for membership,
Who's gonna police it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Garfield Street, most
oh,
people.
but if they're dropping their kids off, then they're not parking there.
Yeah, so I definitely have concerns about parking.
What's your experience been with noise since you were right next door to them?
It's an active,
We're still in
it's
construction.
an active,
with the inside.
it's an active household to start. Kids make noise.
Carolyn mentioned the blacksmith noise, is that your experience as well?
We can hear ping, 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 but it's not that, I don't find it to be that often and that bothersome from where Dylan's doing it now,
And that's currently outside.
right?
You can hear
That's-
Alexa.
That's my
You hear what?
experience.
I do think Carolyn's point was. You even said it, one person isn't that,
Oh, yeah,
Not bad.
a
It's-
neighbor
it's an
doing,
amplification.
a neighbor building a skateboard, sure, that sounds great, who cares if someone makes a little noise? Building skateboards all day long in my backyard with sounds going, no, that sounds awful. I don't wanna live there anymore if that's what it's gonna be. You know,
I don't think those noisy things would be happening all the time.
I
either,
understand that,
but-
Jake, but you know what, it's gonna be happening enough if this is what you're gonna do. And then we added blacksmithing, we added woodworking, we added all this stuff. You know, I don't know what else, but it sounds pretty noisy, just the fans running constant. I mean, it's a lot of noise.
Well, our regs are frankly a bit ambiguous or difficult to understand with respect to noise. Noise applies, like I said, everywhere. There is a reference, sort of, I don't get it, why it came that way from the planning commission, that kind of piggybacks conditional use review criteria in our analysis, or at least arguably does. On the other hand, this is site plan review, which is traffic flow and parking and all those things, so we're listening to noise. It's, our regs are difficult in this respect. But what I said also is true, that noise applies anyway.
You know, one thing I did say as well is, you know, we are going from the premise that this is a club and that's what this site plan review is for.
Correct.
Is this in fact a business? And if so, is there a conditional use permit that needs to be? I don't really know all the terminology, but is this the right permitting for a business? If we we really need to define our terms here, because we don't even know what we're talking about. A
Well,
makerspace,
it's the applicant, so we have to go by the application.
sure.
The application is for a club,
Mhm,
rather than, you know,
mhm.
tell you what the HDR is 22. So there's a whole bunch of. So in every district, there's uses by right,
Yeah, we're
Permitted
HDR, yeah.
permitted uses, so the club is one of those in the HDR.
Mhm,
Every district also has conditional uses, which may be okay, subject to conditions, so.
mhm.
In the HDR, multifamily dwelling, boarding house, retirement community, daycare facility, government office, public works, cultural facility, communications antenna, office, media studio, recreation indoor, veterinary clinic. So those are
Isn't there a home business on that too, but not a
the home occupations
home
that
occupation?
have to be allowed
Yeah,
anywhere.
but not a business, correct? A home
The home
business.
occupation can be a business, but it's things like, tax preparers, salons,
but there is,
beauty
Small
salon.
part of your residence.
I see.
that kind, and those are protected by, those are required to be allowed by statute. The legislature, provide, it's a very extensive set of statutes about what zoning may do, in some places what it must allow for, and some places what it cannot touch at all.
Mhm,
And so one of the things that has to be protected is home occupation,
mhm.
which has a bit of a slippery definition of it.
one of the things that struck me, and to me, I've seen the committee struggle with what is the necessary parking? What, you know, there are elements even under site plan review that because it's a club and been requested as a club, aren't really clear how many parking places are really needed, you know, how, you know.
No, it's true, we don't get great guidance, as our regs are written for parking, level of parking required for the proposed use, so we've talked about some of the things that seem closest to civic use, but it's not a particularly detailed list, but,
Right.
so here we are. Okay, who else will, go ahead,
My name's Alan Bilson, I live at 2 Garfield Street.
number 2,
Number 2.
okay, did you get that, Peggy?
Get that
Last name?
Bilson, Bilson.
Good? Go ahead.
I just have questions about definitions. I tried to move a music store in my house coming before this board about, 10 years ago, and I was told no business. They said, if you want to operate it as a home studio, that would be fine, no businesses. I said, what's the definition of a business? They said, number one, no regular hour. Number two, parking must be provided. Number three, no sales of goods. So if we have I could have called it a club, but I didn't. So I don't see where, if you're gonna provide an operation where you are going to have to provide things to people, because you can't expect these people to be showing up with their blacksmithing supplies. You can't expect them to be showing up with, and part of it is an artisan's guild. That's a pretty vague term, okay? Culturally, and I'm pretty open-minded. We're in this whole thing that we're going on about what is art, blah, 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 but it's a pretty open term, as in, we're gonna be teaching art. Somebody please tell me what that is. It just opens it up to whatever you want to do. The other issue I have is, even if you have people that are doing pick up and drop off of kids, I live at the far end of Garfield Street. I have seen 2 girls hit on bicycles. I have seen ambulances stuck in traffic. I have seen buses wait 45 minutes. I have seen my kids almost hit in my yard by people trying to get around cars at Garfield Street. I've seen Garfield Street used as a bypass because we have one light in town. And expecting more traffic on Garfield Street is just like, I've seen ambulances have to turn around with their lights on because they couldn't go down Garfield Street. Last summer, I came down here talking to people here about putting an accessory dwelling unit in, and I was told that the limit was 1,000 people. How does it change from one end of Garfield Street to the other? I don't know. I must be living at the wrong end of Garfield Street.
No, I think it's already been acknowledged that the actual ADU was too big, or outside the standards.
But still approved.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I have fallen on my sword on this hundreds of times publicly.
Okay.
I made a very honest error when permitting this building as a 1,200 square foot building with an ADU.
Alright, so
Okay.
here we are. They had an ADU permit that they shouldn't have gotten, but once the zoning administrator makes an error and grants a
Sure,
permit,
that's acceptable.
so the person, that permit,
That to me.
if the permit is unappealed, it becomes final, that's that. But
Yeah.
in any event, that accessory dwelling unit permit is now mooted, as we were saying earlier.
Correct.
Okay,
I just had the other concerns.
yep. Did you get them all out, or?
Yeah. Oh, also one more.
Oh.
Bring,
He's not done.
bring your own bottle.
Beverage. And, yeah, I'm not sure. Or if we did a paint and sip, if we could even do a bring your own beverage. Or if there would be a possibility to cater it from somewhere like Bobcat, or if that's even an option. And if that's something that like really doesn't seem like it's fitting, then I'm okay not doing that. You know,
The upstairs.
only we're talking about the upstairs right now.
I'm just asking in terms of parking, so if you do something upstairs.
That's a good question.
You got 1,200 feet upstairs.
Don't need more parking if
More
something.
parking will be needed.
Yeah.
Depends on what uses you're gonna.
That's my
just, yeah, no kind of plan.
Requiring a new hearing then.
But there's unfortunately no more land to have more parking, that's the problem, so.
And I know there's other people who want to speak, but you do say on your Facebook page that you refer to that upstairs as the shop, like you said, the second floor of the shop, like.
So
that's- Yeah, it sounds like you were planning that to be additional classroom space. Is that not what you were thinking?
That was what I was thinking, like, the ADU kind of fell through for the moment, and the
For the
whole plan was.
So that we're gonna apply for another ADU, is that the idea?
I don't think you can do that, right, Sue?
Maybe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I just think I misunderstood
If
perhaps.
something happened to allow me to have an ADU with zoning regulations in the future, then I would like to look at that again.
So,
Cause then the parking would be one for an ADU.
we gotta deal with the application that's before us. Yes, ma'am.
Marion Baser, I live at 35 Mountain Street.
Got that, Peggy?
Marion what?
Baser, B-A-S-E-R.
Got it?
I live at 35 Mountain Street. This building is the closest to my house than anyone else in this room. This building is within 25 feet of my house. It looks directly into the whole back of my house. But the building is there. It's not gonna go away. My concerns deal with something that are not site review, actually. It's noise, it's occupation. As far as people, noise, lighting, occupation, and.
That's all part of site plan, at least there. And we've talked about noise as being.
Well,
Okay,
it's
go
and
ahead.
lighting.
Go ahead.
Windows, the noise, the lighting, and occupation of the
I
building.
like this part.
So my question is, where do I go to address those concerns?
Here. You tell us your concerns now.
Well, but the lighting, in Jake's thing, he addressed the lighting, which is good. Windows, he put in 2 big picture windows on the northeast corner. And the whole back of my house, I live in an aquarium now. And I asked Jake, and this is on the 2nd floor, which isn't gonna be used yet. So I asked specifically for window treatments that will block their light from my house and also their view from my house. I did send Chris a nice video showing him all the windows and where they were in conjunction with my house. So I asked Jake about that today and I hope he can comply. Noise. I have to disagree with starting business at 7 a.m. Our bedroom is right there and I'm gonna hear bang, bang, bang. You're gonna hear me be a mess.
I hope you do, okay?
There'll be no bang, bang, bang in the
No.
morning. Cause we're old, sometimes we sleep late. Sometimes we don't sleep early, like in the nighttime, I don't go to sleep until 2, so bang, 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 7 isn't gonna work. Also, by 8 p.m., I would like the noise to be done. That's the end of the day. That's quiet time, and it should be quiet time for everyone. The kids have to go to sleep, I think. And it would be great if no one was in the building after 9 p.m. Because it's late. So, and then I don't know who is in charge of any conditions that you put on this permit.
Yeah.
Who would be in charge of making sure they're carried out? Like that, I don't know.
The zoning administrator.
Yeah, my confidence in the way this town treats residents is shaken. I live across the street from what used to be a dentist office and a doctor's office. Both times, well, the dentist left, sold his building, and the new owner wanted to go from 2 to 3 apartments. And then the doctor's office with many doctors and many patients came in 2 houses down. And all the variances said you must provide parking. And in the case of the apartment building, the neighbors that were there, we all specified no dogs. There have been dogs in that apartment ever since. So policing is an issue for me. And that's all I have.
Okay, who else? Hasn't spoken. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Jessie Ruth Porkins and I don't currently live in Bristol, Vermont, but I grew up in Bristol, Vermont. And I attend church with Jake at the Bristol Federated Church. I'm on the leadership committee and I just wanted to mention that, we offer parking for lots of public events and like to be neighborly, including blood drives AA meetings, and we would be open to considering offering parking spots. We have on road, right off the road parking there, up to 8 spaces. And it is not used during the week very much. So I also would say just, I think that Jake is a young resident in Bristol and is learning about the zoning process and going through it. And I think that, and the site planning process, and I think it should be considered that you can offer thoughtful critique and help him improve his site plan so it could be amenable to his neighbors, and anything like Bristol, or just shooting it down.
I wish you would have done that to start it.
Go ahead.
My name is Tom Telling. You're telling a story. I'm at 28 Mountain Street.
Did you get that, Peggy?
First name?
Tom Telling,
28 Mountains.
28 Mountain.
I didn't get the name.
Tom, T-O-M, Telling, T-E-L-L-I-N-G.
Thank you.
So I guess, I hear what's being discussed at this meeting. This is the first time that I've had an opportunity, well, I guess I've had the opportunity, but I have not had the knowledge of this building going up. So I think that my comments are not even relevant to where we are. But one day we saw a big metal building going up across the street, and you sit on our front porch and there it is. So I was never notified. Maybe I'm not a neighbor, I don't know. But the horse is out of the barn. I just want to add my voice to the fact that I think that you said you've fallen on your sword 100 times. I've never heard you say you've fallen on your sword once. I haven't been apprised of what's going on here. So I'm that's not relevant to the meeting, but I just wanted to put my name in as having an issue with it.
Have an issue with the proposal.
An issue with the building.
Yeah, I know. I got that. I think we have an issue with the proposal.
I definitely have an issue with the
Well,
proposal.
tell us what that is.
Sound. Because I apologized to Caroline one time when she was trying to work out in her garden. And there's a lot of noise going on over there, and I said, it's really too bad. I feel sorry for her living right next door to that. But you didn't say that.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, in the back.
My name is Mary Potter.
Peggy, get that address?
No, I didn't.
Mary Potter, Hutter.
Got it?
28 Garfield.
28 Garfield?
Yes.
Got it.
So I've lived in Bristol for over 20 years on Garfield Street. I love living in Bristol. I love living on my street, and I love my neighbors. I'm very distressed by the building that has been permitted by this town and is in the process of being built next door to us. This building is non-conforming to our town regulations and does not add character. Does not add to the character in the area in which it is being built. To my understanding, the building's purpose is to be an artisan's club / makerspace. I do understand the desire to own and make available such a place, but I do not understand having this place in a residential area with small yards, narrow streets, and limited parking. As I have been struggling with this proposition, I think of the times I or other neighbors in the hood have had garage sales, large family events, graduation days, 4th of July celebrations, etc. And they have completely changed the nature of our neighborhood with congested parking, narrower streets, more noise. I think you get the idea. You just wait for the event to be over and things can go back to normal again. But with this proposition, this will become the new normal. This property is already densely populated, which impacts us on a daily basis. I am uncomfortable and deeply distressed with the idea of additional activity generated by the proposed use of this building. I think the idea is great, but the location is inappropriate. Whether it's called a club or a makerspace, it is a business that will operate between 7 AM and 9 PM and could be operating 7 days a week. Is this really what our town wants? High impact businesses mixed in with our residential properties? Would you want this next to your house? I'm guessing not. I feel like my town has made a mistake, and instead of correcting that mistake, is forging ahead. But if this is approved, it opens the door to anyone else who has a similar ask. Perhaps when that time comes, it will be next door to your house.
You want to give us that?
That's good, that's 13 minutes.
Okay, Fred?
My name is Fred Baser,
Fred Baser, Peggy?
35 Mountain. Okay,
Think so.
I think a lot of people have expressed thoughts, and my wife and I may have had similar. I just wanted to add one thing to the committee's specific thinking. As I understand the rules, a building that is not being built for residential. And it was made clear to me by Chris when I came to speak with him twice last summer. I think I was the only member of this audience that, when I learned what was going on, tried to learn more. I spoke with Jay too, asked him what was going to happen. But it was clear that it wasn't going to be permitted for residential use. And I wonder if all the rules and regs are looked at. In my looking at them, under section 760 of the under landscape on the no, it doesn't matter. It's concerns the time and
It's landscaping, yeah.
yeah, landscaping. Bristol should require non-residential development to install landscaping to blend the project into its surroundings pursuant to the following standards. And number one, the setback should be how many feet? 25. And it's 10. And suitable landscaping is supposed to be provided to help deal with the fact that it's not a residential use in the land. And I found throughout this in my looking into it, which I started last summer, mostly last summer, is that there are other little bits that just haven't been followed. And I guess my concern would be if it's possible for Jake to put in a little landscaping rather than us perhaps to put in more to shield the view of the lake, because as Marion said, it's right in our face. It goes our whole backyard. That would be beneficial. That would be a good thing to do. And it wouldn't be, I don't think, extraordinarily expensive. And it's too bad it's not 25 feet from Carolyn's and 25 feet from ours. But they didn't follow the rules.
Yeah, well, but when it was a proposed and permitted accessory dwelling unit.
No, zoning didn't permit it when it was proposed.
Well, he got a permit.
Why?
No, we know we should, but Fred, let me get my point out.
Okay,
My point, you were just talking about landscaping,
yes,
and what you were talking about was for non-residential uses. So that's, and my only point was before, there was and now it's moot, was a proposed residential use. So what you mentioned before wasn't right, but now it is.
what I was told, not more than a couple of months after the permit was approved, we were out of state, so I didn't even know that there was a permit issued and approved until it was something I couldn't do anything about, was that, oh no, Jake cannot have a apartment unit there because zoning clearly states, if you have more than one residence, it's not permitted. So he might have applied for something, but it wasn't changed.
No, but it shouldn't have been permitted. We agree.
And
now,
thus it should have been treated as
but that
an additional an accessory building rather than an accessory dwelling unit.
correct, but that ADU is now moved. It's gone.
Yeah, it
Temporarily.
never existed.
Temporarily.
It never existed. It wasn't moot and gone. It never existed under today's zoning rules.
That's so smart.
It's not semantics, it's important.
Well, we're here for site plan review for this business, not for an accessory dwelling unit, business suing club, not for an accessory dwelling unit. That's
Fred,
what-
why is it important?
There's something that this committee isn't responsible for dealing with. And it's not really something that, I think Porter said it pretty well in the beginning.
This is important, the very obvious reason, I'm sorry to interrupt, in that an applicant can say, I want to build an ADU. He gets the 1,000 square foot garage underneath and the ADU on top of the 900 square foot, whatever's gonna fit these rules. Oh, he does not act on that permit for the 2 years, and all of a sudden, oh, I've got a very nice commercial building, whatever, right next to my, only 10 feet away from my people. I would have had to have it 25 feet away. It gets gaining, I mean, I'm not saying you did this, but I'm looking at this now, and this is such a kind of a play. And unfortunately, this club name for this work, it also feels like a play, but it's really a makerspace. It's not, it just doesn't feel like a club. You know?
No, I got your point.
All right, thank you.
Back, you sir in the back, you had your hand up every now and then.
Me?
Yeah, I thought you. That's me.
I'm the guy y'all hate right now. I'm the one who built it.
Okay,
Hey, Brian Miller,
yep,
address on the.
say your piece.
The parking. I understand everybody's concept about parking on the streets. I witnessed it because they had the family down the road lost a family member. And I counted 17 cars blocking up the street. And it was pretty hectic. But I understand y'all's concept about parking. Yeah. Number two. How did you get your aquarium view from the building?
I looked through the space that you had.
How'd you get there?
I went up the stairs. And you weren't on a ladder, and you weren't close to the window.
But did you ask anybody permission to go into that building? Because that's called trespassing.
No, let's keep it to the application. We're not gonna
If Jake.
devolve.
that.
If you got a comment about the application, fine. If not, say that.
And, I built the place for free. I didn't charge you one red penny. How does that make y'all feel? What I'm hearing is pretty petty. You're supposed to be a community. You're supposed to come together, be for the people. I'm kind of finding that hard to believe. Yeah. But really.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Robin Hewitt, HEWITT,
What's the address, Robin?
12 Pleasant Street.
12 Pleasant, Robin Hewitt.
I'm not a close by neighbor, but just case in point, my father ran a business for years in the village, stripping and repairing furniture and running table saws. My brother worked in the same barn during COVID, running table saws all day, no sound insulation, dust blowers going. A neighbor next door does carpentry, he runs a planer. He's running power equipment different times of the day, a lot of days. We have a rooster across the road that likes to talk, just learning to talk. We have a lot of noise around being in the village, we're close to everybody, and I don't know if zoning regulations were different back then, but we figured out how to make it work, and I understand the visual piece and the part that's the water under the bridge at this point is not what we're able to talk about tonight, but as far as our church has parking space a block away. That would be not difficult for people to walk from, and that's just
Pineapple.
Okay. That it? Yes, you don't, Ted, we haven't heard from you yet. You wanna say, see if you can get back on this board, and I don't know. I'll talk to you. 12 years. I'm so mad at you for abandoning me, so go ahead.
Ted Lyles, Lylis, 23 Garfield Street.
23 Garfield, Peggy?
And the building is there, and I think his idea is a really nice one. And I'm hoping that his proposal can be modified in such a way that it fits in better with the neighborhood and the neighbors. And that it is being painted up as this incredible travesty, and it isn't. It doesn't have to be. And I think it's a really good idea and worth working on to make it fit.
Anybody else, we haven't heard from?
There were 3 other neighbors who weren't able to be here tonight who asked that we submit their letters.
Sure.
Do you want me to read them or just?
No, just tell us who they are, well, or give them to me, and I'll read it.
yeah.
Are there addresses on there, so?
Yeah.
Okay, so Peggy, we're taking letters from Marion Bouchard, 30 Mountain Street. Sherry Bedard. Doesn't give her address, says Mountain Street homeowners. Anybody know where Sherry lives?
She owns the yellow house next to the Bazers.
Okay.
Just north of.
North of Fritz.
Yeah.
Okay. And Deborah Holmes, who is 24 Garfield.
He's next to Bob and Mary, who is joining the property.
Well, suffice to say, each of those 3 homeowners voiced their opposition to the project. We'll pass that around for the board to see them later. Anybody else who hasn't spoken, wants to speak? Anybody else who has anything to add that they didn't already say?
Well, I have a list of questions, additional questions, 32 different clusters of questions. You count them separately, there might be. But there are just a lot of questions, and I don't know if this is the time for it, and I want you to have those so that you can see there's still a lot of things to discuss.
Well,
some of them have come up, some of them haven't.
yeah, well, since you drafted those, the ones that haven't come up already that are still open in your mind, go ahead and point them out and maybe get an answer from them.
So there's been conflicting and fluctuating descriptions of what's envisioned, makerspace, shop, guild, club, but they're not all fully fleshed out. And I was just like wondering, like, how do we find out what their plan really is? And so like when I got the septic plan a year ago, I called, I was like, hey, what you doing? You said, I'm putting in an accessory dwelling unit for my ex-wife, so I can keep her, in my children's life. And I thought, that's awesome. And I didn't follow up on it, and that was my bad. But now I'm like, whoa, what?
I'm still playing, but then I couldn't do the accessory.
But I'm just saying, like, then now we get this great big thing, so. But then it's like, it's a club, it's a makerspace, it's a guild, it's a business, like, what is it? And I feel like the question that Marion asked is like, well, when we finally decide what it is, like, if you get a permit that says, okay, Jake, just do this, then who's policing what actually happens, and how do we know? And what if you run into other roadblocks? You're like, well, you can't have, like, I don't know, it just feels like there's a lot of moving parts. And then I know these are really like detailed questions.
Okay.
Chairman, I don't wanna drag us down a bunch of
This is
things.
the place, no, but this is the,
Okay,
we're about to
so
wrap. So
what is
this is the place to get the details answered, because it's the guy.
Part is I wanna run it as club with the membership. I wanna be able to offer as much different medium and art possibilities that I can. And the portion would be the lower part of that building.
So if one of I think if I understood you both saying like one of your goals is to make art more accessible to people and you want to make that be possible, but it's gonna be a membership club, which by nature is exclusive, right?
But a low costly membership fee.
And I guess I just wondered, like, we already have a lot of programs for art in the community. Were there steps already taken to collaborate with them to try to make those things happen somewhere where there's other spaces?
If I might type in just for a moment on that, because I come from Portland, Maine. I grew up in southern Vermont, I moved to Portland, Maine for 18 years, and I was very much a part of the art and music scene. I learned a lot about third spaces, about places that bring artists and musicians together. It's hard in a small town. I've been here for 6 years now. It's hard to meet other artists, to get each other together and create a scene. You don't create a scene by being in the room just painting by yourself. You exchange ideas with sculptors and with illustrators, with painters. It's multimodal. And in creating a center like this, though like I expressed earlier, ELP program is wonderful. The pottery that Mala does downtown is great. That we're homeless with the watercolors. There's so much in our community, but there's very few spots that truly knit those artists together. And in creating a space where we can bring auxiliary teachers in to share their craft, to share their ideas, to inspire kids and adults alike, to have something more in their lives that isn't just so blasé and bland. And frankly, I don't know if you all feel it, but it's a little bit stressful in this world. We need more things that bring us into that place of happy and collectedness. And I understand that where every one of your concerns in this matter lie, because I too live right there. I'm Jake's neighbor. I've watched this go up and I've heard the sheet metal getting cut. That's part of construction. It will be ended. And there'll be insulation in there, and there'll be tools and facilities capable of allowing you and I to get together, and you and you and you into the same space and share some of our ideas, maybe a bit about community while we're drawing, about what knits us together. But the more that we blow each other apart in these arguments about the semantics of these things, and I understand you're all concerned because you're all property owners, you pay taxes, you have a vested interest in this town. I want to see something more, and I know Jake does too, and Jake is a dreamer just as much as I. And sometimes dreamers don't have everything that's solid as you want it to be. But just like a good sculpture, it takes time to carve away the pieces to make that David. And this, maybe in time could be that. But I understand that we need to make adjustments for this building, with how our impact and how our residents and club is going to exchange. I know the noise is going to be there, and maybe we can mitigate that. Maybe the site of the building itself is a little intrusive. Maybe we can do something about that to make it a little less impactful to everyone. But if we can work together to get there, then maybe we can have something additional in our community and we can bring each other into a new group space.
I apologize for the design and the look of it, of the building, and I know that's what probably on top of everyone's list. And I'm not a designer, and I was trying to work within my means to start working on this dream that I've had for a very, very long time. And I didn't mean for it to be so obtrusive.
I'm sorry, it's been hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Can I just say something? No one is arguing this is a fabulous idea. No one is arguing that. It's a fabulous idea. Of course it is. But do I want a scene in my backyard? No. It doesn't belong there. It's a great idea.
Have a
I don't
meeting about
want it in
another
my
space.
backyard. What? Maybe in another space, great, but not there.
People were willing to help me find another space and
Hold
or
on.
something.
Sorry, there you go.
I couldn't agree more with what you said as a philosophy and provision, or also with what Carolyn said. I almost, and compassionately, I actually almost feel bad because here is this building, whether you like it or not, that you can't put the apartment unit in your plan. It's non-conforming. What do you do with it? And I don't know whether the seed for this idea started a long time ago, or it was an adaptation to make it work. I think the idea is great. I just can't say strongly enough, it's not the right place for it in terms of being in the middle of the residential area. And it's because of impact pieces, traffic, safety, things that I believe site plan review looks at. I feel badly.
I would love to have another option, and I did look at, business building down here before I went this route, but it was still just too expensive.
Any specific questions that,
Yeah, I mean,
what you said there, did you make it?
very much in the weeds,
That's okay.
plan for snow removal, plan for emergency access. The sign, 2 feet by 5 feet is a pretty big sign, what do you mean by a 3D sign?
Oh, it's
Will the
sculpted.
sign be illuminated?
Have it multi-material, like they're kind of mixing what we're doing.
Relief and
Yeah,
How will the sign impact the, pretty limited line of sight coming out of the narrow driveway? I'll leave it there.
Where did you propose, Jacob, where would this sign be? On your.
I'm not. And I don't have a specific position.
On the.
I was thinking
west side of the
here,
driveway,
but
on the west side of
maybe,
the driveway,
yeah,
before, in front of the house.
yeah.
Okay. And what were the proposed dimensions? We don't want to-
2 foot by 1 foot wide, 5 feet high,
The sign itself will be 2 foot by 1 foot,
2 foot by 5 feet.
5 feet,
1
sorry.
feet wide, 1 foot
Right.
wide.
I misheard you.
Deep.
Yeah. Okay.
1 foot wide?
Yeah,
it'll be like for the relief. It'll be.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anything else going on in here?
Recorder, no, that's.
Got you mixed up.
Jake, I just wanna say that nobody dislikes you or any, like,
Really
when
appreciate that.
when we leave the meeting, I don't want it to be like all the neighbors ganged up on Jake, cause like, it is not that
That's not
vibe.
how we feel.
It is not,
Yeah.
but like, this is the only place where someone can voice their concerns about what they're having for their home, you know what I mean?
You're 100% right.
Yeah, so it's not you
For sure.
or anyone in your family.
and I
no one
expected
who's
to see
the other-
all of you here,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I do hope, since we have come, that we will be informed if there's future discussions, because I haven't heard anything since I got the septic thing a year ago.
I was never notified about anything.
We
I
issue,
was
well,
right there.
the notice requirements differ by what the issue before the board is, site plan 7 days, other things like.
Oh, I'm
conditional
talking
use.
about the initial construction.
Yeah, well,
Building new-
Or the changes that have
Well,
happened as
building
the
permit, you
permit
get the,
I was
evolves.
out
the
of
P,
town.
well,
I
the
was
P,
in
all you get is the
Hawaii.
P. You know, the red P.
And you
But
have
I
to walk
wasn't
up
in
on
town.
somebody's
It
porch
doesn't
to read
matter.
it,
I mean,
and I
the-
trust my
the-
town administrator, and I
the
trust my
planning
neighbors,
is
so it
supposed
never
to
really
say-
means there's gonna be a
There you
fiasco.
go.
Other things, like
Under the planning.
conditional use, the adjoining neighbors have to get notice of the application. So that's just the way the statutes are written. The amount of notice and the directness of the notice depends upon what's being proposed.
But having come and expressed our concerns, does that make us party to future conversations or put us in a position to appeal if?
Yep.
We just want to make sure the communication. will
Doesn't
come-
stop.
Everybody,
Doesn't stop.
everybody who didn't get, anybody who's spoken or interested, everybody here. Except for maybe Lady on Pleasant Street is an interested person because they're in the media and on. And interested persons who participated are entitled to.
Including the letter.
No, thank you for that clarification, because I think that
That counts.
communication is important. to
That
all of
counts.
us.
So those are the people who could appeal to the next level if they didn't like our decision, as could Jake, if he didn't like our decision. The next level is the appellate court, is the environmental court,
Environmental court.
and it's a de novo appeal. Which means that the environmental court sits as if it's the DRB all by himself. And it's him, so if there's only building there, okay, so I can say him, he wears a DRB hat. And decides the matter and without, meaning he doesn't owe deference. The way an appellate court usually does on findings of fact. It's all new, that's what the noble means, so. Most towns are that way, Bristol is that, we can be an on the record town, which is different, Middlebury, Virgins. But we're de novo, which means any appeal goes to the environmental court, and environmental court looks at it all fresh. Any other questions? Any other comments? I'm about to close the hearing down. Okay, so we're gonna close the hearing, which means we have to get a decision out within 45 days. which we will do. I'm gonna move that we'll go into deliberative session, which is like executive session.
Second.
All those in favor, of deliberative session, we can do it now, at least start it now. 4-0, Peggy,
Not quite far out.
3-1.
I never, almost never think a deliberative session is a good idea.
I think it's an excellent idea, and it's actually, the statute says so, for quasi deliberative process should be an executive session.
Okay.
And we wanna take our time. Honest. Okay.